I started late. I wasn't the superstar.
Right. Okay.
When I first started out, I was really pretty bad. Like probably nobody thought I was gonna make it up. Sacrifice came. Being at Indiana, missing my little brother,
Yeah.
every day seeing him grow up, and
Yeah. Yeah.
to now still being overseas, and he's, a golfer, or my grandma turning 80. Hey, how do you win
Yeah.
that stint of isolation? How do you win that time of depression? Because it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I've doubted myself many times and thought possibly this was gonna be it. I finished in Israel and then I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
Time right before we had the official practices, I got the call and I was cut. And I think I was in the room for like days.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that moment,
Yeah.
I was partially depressed and so devastated because I was right there. I was right there for something that I wanted so badly.
So we're really excited today to have a global professional basketballer who was drafted 33rd overall in the WNBA by Indiana Fever in 2011 and who's played in numerous countries around the world to pursue her professional basketball career. So it's with great pleasure to welcome Jori Davis to the show to share her secrets and sacrifices of her professional basketball journey so far and much, much more. So Jori, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be on the Elite Children podcast. It's been a while, but we're here.
It was a bit of a journey to get you on, but we've got there in the end. So we really, really made up that you could join us today. So before we start, one of the many reasons that we wanted to get you on the show was a documentary that we saw a while ago called Basketball Overseas, A Lost Community. Basically, it was trying to highlight the misconceptions of playing basketball overseas and highlighting to people that it's not always a fancy and a lavish lifestyle, earning lots and lots of money. And it was a must watch, and it was a great watch, we thought. And it was one of the reasons that we started the podcast in the first place, to try and shine the light on the secrets and sacrifices all professional athletes go through to kind of make it to the top. And it's not always that podium finish that everybody kind of sees. So thank you for having that voice, and thank you for sharing that stories, because we thought it really kind of highlighted what all the athletes kind of go through, and something that we're trying to really reinforce on this show. So that was a great watch.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for watching and spending the time, of course, to look at it. So yeah, it was a short clip. Hope to
Yeah,
make more.
yeah,
Definitely wanted to just put that out there
yeah.
for anyone who was maybe looking or who will come across that message.
Yeah, I think say like podcasts and little kind of shows like that. I think they're always great to kind of shine the light on professional athletes, because I know from our background and from my four children currently starting that journey, it is quite kind of easy for parents to get kind of carried away, to kind of see that podium finish straight away, and they don't actually see all the hard work and the kind of sacrifices that we'll kind of go through shortly, that allows the professional athlete to kind of make it to the top. So, okay, so before we start the show, my children have come up with 10 quick-fire would you rather questions, and normally it's my children that ask the questions for you. They write the questions themselves. However, unfortunately, they're all away competing today. So today you're stuck with me, Jori. So my first question is, would you rather game or read a book?
Read a book.
Read a book. Would you rather win a million or earn a million?
Earn a million.
Okay. Would you rather have a takeaway or eat out?
Eat out.
Eat out. Listen to Stormzy or listen to Drake?
Drake.
Drake. Would you rather wear Nike or Adidas?
And Nike.
Nike. Would you rather own a Bugatti or a Lamborghini?
A Lamborghini.
Would you rather do cardio or lift weights?
Lift weights.
Would you rather be too hot or too cold?
Too cold.
Too cold. Would you rather play one-on-one against Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal?
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. And the last one is, would you rather wear Dunks or Jordan 1s?
Jordan ones.
Super duper. Thank you very much for that. Okay, then let's begin the show. So, as you know, the podcast is to shine the light on the secrets and sacrifices all families go through to allow their children to become elite level athletes. And that's something really close to our hearts at the moment, with having 4 children currently on that journey. So the question that I normally start with everybody is, could you just take me back to your earliest childhood memories when you was growing up, and just give us a little bit of an insight into what family life was back then when you was growing up?
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, on the west bank of New Orleans. So not directly in the city, but about
Yep.
12 minutes from the city of New Orleans. I grew up on a street where my great grandmother, great grandfather house was just 3 minutes walking.
Right. Okay.
My aunts. So I grew up on a street where my family lived on literally the whole block. My cousins were always nearby. So I really grew up in a community of people that loved me. Our church was right on the corner from my house.
Yep.
So I had that type of experience growing up. And when I professed my love for basketball at 3 years old, um, it was just something that no one took it seriously at three. It was just like, ah, she wants to play.
Yep.
But everyone invested into my journey.
Okay.
Everyone allowed me to dribble the ball at all hours of the night, the day. If I needed to get to the gym,
Yep.
it was really a community effort, and so that's how I was raised from my community and my family. I did grow up in a single parent household. However, my grandmother, my grandfather, yeah, again, all my cousins, I was surrounded by enough love to, in my opinion, that I didn't realize or feel the same as when I talk to other
Yep.
individuals coming from single parent households. So community for me was major. My amateur team that I was a part of, they Lady Pride. One of the key starting points with learning the game for me was them.
Right.
They
Okay.
taught how to play the game, how to approach the game the right way, from being prideful and enjoying it, having respect, how to carry yourself. Those were some of the main things that we had to learn in order
Yeah.
to play. And I think that foundation as well, playing with Lady Pride, was one of the keys to molding me into the player I am today.
Okay. So when on your journey throughout kind of school, did you try any other sports whilst you was at school, or was it just from, like you say 3 years old, you was just quite kind of focused on, this is basketball, this is what I love doing?
Yeah. No, I mean, of course, basketball was always the top priority. I knew I wanted to play from the very beginning. However, I ran track,
Right.
played
Okay.
softball for a little stint. That was pretty much it. Everything else was more so neighborhood,
Yeah.
playing football, tag football,
Yeah.
those types of things. But the sports that I did compete in was track and field, and also I played softball.
Right. Okay. Okay. So when you was again when you was growing up, did anyone tell you how hard it was to get into, say, professional basketball? Because I know, reading the stats kind of recently, and you'll probably know more kind of precise details than myself. I read a stat that I think it was something like 3% of high school basketballers go on to, say, play college basketball, and then it's only 1% of college basketballers that make it professional. And I know with my eldest daughter, she's playing tennis, and it's a similar kind of statistic. Same for my boys. My boys play football, so soccer in the UK, and that's a similar statistic. It's like 1% of boys who start in an academy at the age of 9 will go on to make it as a professional footballer. So did anyone kind of highlight to you how difficult the journey was at the start?
Um, no, no
Okay,
one. I don't recall ever in my childhood, or even once I got to high school and was
okay,
being recruited. I started hearing those numbers once I was in college.
right, okay,
Um, but I never paid attention to the odds.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
focused on enjoying the game, learning the game, enjoying my teammates, my community that I played with.
yeah.
Um, but I think that again, that's a testament to the different generation
Okay.
I was in as an athlete. My generation, I truly believe we really loved the game.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were passionate about the game. We were chasing greatness,
Yeah.
not chasing, being the top influencer or chasing to make the most money or
Yeah.
be on the TV or get a sponsorship by
Yeah.
Nike. We were chasing just simply to be the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my generation, I truly believe that was a differentiator because we weren't paying attention to that. But
Yeah.
also I can't take the credit because, my family, my mother, especially my stepdad, he always said, what does it matter?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
want to do it, you're gonna go do it,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
figure it out. And if you don't make it, you don't make it. But it's kind of like if people say, "Oh, on average, everyone lives to
Yeah.
20." Are you
Yeah.
gonna live your life that, "Oh, I'm gonna die at 20"? No, you're gonna live your life, and if it happens, it happens. So
Yeah.
I think the same with sport
Yeah.
to any young player is like, stop if you're gonna go. And
Yeah.
there's an experience if you make it high school, if you make it college, if you make it pro, you're gonna have a dope experience that's gonna
Yeah.
teach you something to take you in the next phase of life. So, but yes, to answer your question, no, I
Okay.
didn't really hear those statistics
Oh,
on
right,
my
okay.
journey.
So, what was your first, say, like wow moment in basketball? So, was there a specific kind of moment where you thought, "Wow, I'm pretty kind of cool at kind of basketball. This is, I've kind of got a chance to kind of like make it like kind of pro." Because I know we've had like numerous guests on now, and one of our guests was, I'm trying to think of his name now, Danny Evans. Sorry. So he was a professional basketballer as well. His first wow moment was when he went away. He was in a tournament in Turkey, it was, and he went away with Team GB. And he was just getting off the bus for like the hotel, and they kind of put them into like a nice hotel because it was Team GB at the time. There was loads of like kind of fans there waiting. There was loads of kind of security guards. There were people like kind of taking pictures, wanting like kind of autographs. And he was only really young at the time, and that was his first like kind of wow moment where he thought like, wow, this is like unreal. This is like what it kind of could be if I keep kind of like working hard and keep putting all the kind of hours, like kind of the days, the weeks, the months of kind of training in. Was there a particular like kind of wow moment that you had where you thought, wow, this is it?
I mean, I think the only wild moment, if it pertains to fans,
Yeah.
for me was more so when I got to Indiana,
Right. Okay.
because of the stadium at Assembly Hall,
Yeah. Yeah.
where the women's basketball team got during my time. Now it's even more, but um, just there were certain games that were just jam packed,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it was Indiana, and then I did have my picture on the back of a few Indianapolis buses in the
Cool.
city, for one of my photo shoots I did where I looked like I was in the air dunking, and I had a lot of
Yeah.
messages. I mean, I think Instagram was just coming out, so I can
Right. Okay.
imagine if Instagram was around when
Yeah.
I would have maybe went viral, but
Yeah.
that was one of that for me. It came later,
Right. Okay. Yeah.
moments where I was like, okay, younger, it was just more so when I started to come into my own. I started late. I wasn't a superstar.
Right. Okay.
When I first started out, I was really pretty bad. Like probably nobody thought I was gonna make it at the beginning. So for me, my story is more of an underdog story.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, it was more so as I started to get closer
Yep.
to college, middle, first year of high
Yep.
school. I realized from my performance that, okay, I
Yeah.
can I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so this, so the, I'll probably ask this kind of question slightly different then. Normally, we've been asking the athletes if they thought that they had a normal childhood when they was growing up, because different guests have kind of spoke about, say, like missing parties or different events, not going on family holidays. For instance, we had Tom Smith, a cricketer, who plays for Gloucestershire. The cricket season in the UK starts from say April to say September. So he said he's never had a family holiday because he was always going away, kind of competing. Um, we've had other guests on that have kind of highlighted to us the different sacrifices kind of along the way with having to go to bed earlier than the friends, having to get up early in the morning to like kind of do the training at kind of 6 a.m. Danny Evans mentioned that. So he was getting up at say 6 o'clock in the morning to do all his like kind of S&C stuff before school, and his friends just couldn't get their heads around like why was he getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. They just thought it was like mind blowing that he was kind of getting up at like such an early time at that age. Um, so would you say that you had a normal kind of childhood, or would it be like more that you started the sacrifices and things like that when you was a little bit older with regards to your kind of career, like say Indiana Fever?
Yeah, I would say for me, when I was younger, let's say before high school,
Yep,
um, I guess, looking back, we just naturally follow the trends. Yes, it
yep,
was a sacrifice. Yes, we were up at 6 a.m. sometimes to travel to a tournament,
yep.
or yes, we would have early morning practices sometimes.
Okay.
But I mean, your family at that age, again, for me, I'll speak for me. My community of players I grew up with were just like my family. They came to the parties that my
Yeah.
family
Right.
had, I
Okay.
went to their family parties. So
Yeah.
again, I think where you hint at, did you have a normal childhood? I think maybe mine wasn't as normal for the athlete journey because
Yep.
many people are surrounded by people on their teams that they don't really go hang out with outside of the sport.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas the players I grew up with were like family.
Yep.
So yes, we did have sacrifices. I did miss going road trip to like Disneyland. I think my
Yep.
family went to Florida one time. I was going somewhere else with my team. I missed
Yep.
those things. I missed a few elements, but I think early on childhood, I actually didn't miss as much. It's now
Yep.
actually as I gotten older, that's when the sacrifice came. Being at Indiana, missing my little brother,
Yeah.
every day, seeing him grow up, and
Yeah. Yeah.
to now still being overseas and he's, a golfer, or my grandma turning 80,
Yeah. Yeah.
missing that day. Um, those are I think the sacrifices come much more prevalent now. I
Yeah.
realize the sacrifices I'm making to play this game compared to early on.
Right. Okay. Okay. So from being one of the top scorers in the Big Ten conference, and then from being drafted, and then from beginning your career in Israel, it was ending up the top goal scorer. From traveling around the world to some amazing places, from making lots of friends. However, because of kind of contracts and the length of them, you've mentioned that I've read that you've lost a lot of friends as well because of that. And then talking openly about, say, depression and lack of confidence and being homesick. How do you personally cope with the, say, peaks and troughs and the roller coaster of emotions that you kind of go on in your journey?
Um, I think it's just kind of maybe it's the thing of an athlete where you just kind of just keep going and going and you
Yep.
just knock it off. But um, truthfully, I think it's just staying grounded. For me, my personality, I do love stability despite
Yep.
my lifestyle, my personality, but it's stability in certain ways. And so I think the way I've tried to cope with it is just I've gone all in
Okay.
on the important relationship in life. And so I do have certain individuals that even if I don't talk to them every day or they're not right in my space, maybe they're still
Yep.
home. I know I can rely on them. I know I can call them, and
Okay.
I know that they care about me. I think the differentiator for athletes when you start to feel isolated is that you look around and you maybe don't see people that genuinely love you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and even if not gonna still be this athlete and you don't have these accolades to read off and there's no likeness that makes you cool to be associated with you. When
Yep.
all that goes out the window, I think most of the issues come when you feel like, well, if this part of me goes away, are these people that are around me still gonna love me?
Yep.
And I truly think I was blessed enough to have that. And so when I do make it home in the summer and I'm around my family and I spend that time, I think that's where I get, rejuvenated because now
Yep.
I go home and they don't even care that they don't even know I play. They're like, whatever. Oh, you playing basketball? Great. Now it's on. Like, let's talk about life. So
Yep.
I think that's the beauty for me, and those are the times where I can recharge, and and I just feel at home.
Yep.
Whereas I know some players don't get that. The isolation and feeling alone sometimes abroad is something you're gonna go through. You
Yep.
you can't fix it. You can't cure it. All you can do is embrace it.
Yep.
And that's where I think the messaging now to the next generation should be more so of, hey, how do you win
Yep.
that stint of isolation? How do you win that time of depression? Because it's gonna happen.
Yep.
We're human. Now it's not so much about, oh, cure it. No, it's like it's gonna happen. Let's figure out what are the ways to get through it.
Yep.
And that's the conversation I think is more so uh the thing we need to have about, because yeah, there's no real way to say this is how you're gonna get through it. It's more
Yep.
so unique to each person, and you got to figure that out
Yep.
sometimes a little bit on your own.
See, that's great as well because we've had numerous guests on now where we had Reece Brown on. So he used to play for Manchester United in England, and when he was growing up, he was at different clubs that were kind of down south from where he used to live in Manchester. So he had to, like, say, move home. However, in his words, he was saying he was a bit of a homeboy and he'd get really like homesick. So what he'd tend to do is, if he was at a club, say like down south or in the Midlands, he'd be driving every day, and he may be doing like say a 2, 3, 4 hour like round trip just to get to training because he wanted to kind of stay at home. He didn't want to be away. And
Mm.
then we've had other athletes and footballers on. So we had Manny Anarise, so he's a professional footballer as well. And he got loaned out to different clubs, and he was living in like nice, say, apartments, and he was living like kind of a nice lifestyle. However, he was just missing all his friends and family, and his girlfriend would come up to visit him, but he spoke quite openly about kind of feeling a little bit depressed at times. So I think that way of looking at it, of saying to the athletes that, look, this is gonna kind of happen. What can we do to kind of like help you through the process? Because I know from speaking to like a lot of athletes, and possibly like yourself in a team sport like say basketball, you're never necessarily at one particular club for too long. If we kind of look through all the professional athletes, they may have kind of played for say like 10, 11, 12 different kind of clubs. So like you'd mentioned, you'll be kind of making friends for a year, but then after that year, then you'd be kind of moving on and going somewhere else. So again, going back to what you said, it's almost about kind of embracing that journey and trying to enjoy that experience whilst you're there, and not seeing it as a negative that you're away from kind of like friends and family. Um,
Yeah, I
so
mean, yeah, for me, I think again, um, my personality, the way I grew up, I think the way I got through the times where I
yep,
felt away from people that were more wholesome
yep,
families, is that I unisolated myself and
yep,
went into their homes. So I think
yep,
is a two-way street.
yep,
Some athletes we do talk about, oh, I'm isolated, I feel alone, but you're choosing to stay in your room every day. You're
yeah,
choosing to
yeah,
not get out there and find the family of fans that
yep,
might really care about you, and they're fans, but they actually would love to
yep,
embrace you while you're on this journey, because more and more fans are understanding that some of us are away from home. They've
yep,
been fans for a while, so they're starting to learn. They're educated. Um, and I think, not every athlete can do that. I obviously know for me, it's totally different than being a superstar footballer.
yeah,
um, so I know that's difficult, but I will say there's probably someone um, out there you can trust.
yeah, yeah,
And it is hard to find because, is this a scattered space?
yeah,
But I would say the thing I did was unisolated myself.
yeah, yeah.
I opened
Okay,
up myself and I
yeah,
started to embrace, the people, especially in Italy. And now I have individuals that I call like my family.
yeah.
One particular mother in Ischia, I was playing in Battipaglia in
Right,
Italy.
okay,
my whole family went with her family for Easter in Italy on Ischia Island, and it was beautiful, and they still remember that to that day. So I think it's, you have to meet people halfway.
Yeah.
Um, and that's one of the places. If I'm in Italy, or if I'm like, I just need to get away, I know I can call Mama
Yeah.
Lasagna and
Yeah.
say, hey, can I come over? Can I just spend time with you and the dogs? And she's like, yeah, anytime. So that came from getting on the boat and just going
Yeah.
see and meeting them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think it's a two-way street. It's not
Yeah.
just the athlete has to, have someone create this program. Athletes are isolated. It's like, no,
Yeah.
take responsibility and, due diligence, of course, because not every fan, not every person can be trusted
Yeah.
in the sport world. But there are some that, yes, they like what you do, but again, some of them really don't care as
Yeah.
much. So that's my other take on the isolation and depression.
Okay. So and again from our perspective and something that's been like amazing for us on our learning journey with like our children trying to go down the elite level route because we're not from that background. Hearing the stories like this is great for us to kind of understand like the mindset and understand what kind of works and what doesn't work and what we could kind of try. Because my daughter travels away quite a lot with her tennis, so she's currently just traveling to Nigeria to play tennis. And again, from listening to all these amazing stories from all the guests that we've kind of had on, that's what we've like literally just said to her, or I said to her this morning before she went away. While she was away, try and like kind of embrace the kind of country, try and like learn the culture. And again, from speaking to other athletes who may have felt a little bit more isolated and just stayed in like inside the hotel room, they've said one of their regrets was because you're traveling around and you're visiting so many amazing kind of countries, try and like embrace the country, try and like kind of learn a little bit about the country, try and like kind of visit different places while you're there. And try and enjoy the experience, like you mentioned at the start of the question. So, for us, it's been great to kind of open our eyes and to kind of listen to kind of the pros and cons of being that professional athlete that travels around to help us on the journey. And again, like we started at the start of the show, um, just to kind of give that voice and that opinion. And then when parents are kind of on that journey with their children, then hopefully they can make an informed decision and see what works for their child. And again, they're not alone in that situation. These thousands and like millions of athletes have kind of all been there and done that. And it's just trying to kind of get different kind of takes and little bits of information off them to see what kind of works for the individual. So, brill. Okay, so I probably know the answer to this question. However, I'm going to ask it anyway because I'm slowly kind of building up a picture of the mindset of yourself. But was there any times where you felt like giving up on your basketball career due to like kind of any setbacks or rejections or even down to like kind of injuries?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of times where
Okay.
for a split little bit of time, it was like,
Yep.
okay, this is it.
Yep.
And again, I think that more so came the further I was from my support system,
Okay.
playing abroad, um, because they weren't there. And
Yep.
that's where that isolation and depression
Yep.
starts to get hard because now it's only you and you.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're competing, and the ones that want you to compete are paying you, and they're
Yep.
not totally invested in, the full holistic parts of Jori.
Yep.
So I will say it was more so those times where it was like, this is it. I'm not gonna make it, or this isn't gonna work now. So I will say it was more so the later half of my career, where
Okay.
yes, I mean you doubt yourself, and again, everybody has that time. Like
Yep.
if an athlete said they never doubted themselves, I just don't really believe them.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
it's a lie. But yeah, I've doubted myself many times and thought possibly this was gonna be it. I finished in Israel and then I didn't have a job.
Yep.
So it was a time I was working actually in between working, training, waiting for that next contract, and
Yeah.
I was completely devastated.
Okay.
Um,
Did I read a story right where when you got drafted by Indiana Fever in 2011, did you get cut before practice started? Did I read?
yeah.
So
So
how?
I was drafted. It was a super high.
Yeah,
And, I was looking to go do some trainings before the season started, before
yeah,
practice, because I was right there. Um, and, during the time right before we had the official practices, I got the call and I was cut. And I think I was in the room for like days.
yeah,
Of course, my college teammates, some of them came and kind of helped me and took me out. But I'm pretty sure that moment
yeah,
I was partially depressed and so
yeah,
devastated because I was right there. I
yeah,
was right
yeah,
there for something that I wanted so badly. Um, and I think the hardest part for me was that, you didn't get that full opportunity. And I think the other part for me as a player that I think is not so much the playing, I think it's when the business side comes in that
yeah,
cripples you because you don't know it as well.
yeah, yeah,
And so you're losing because you don't know that world, not
yeah,
because you're the talent, because the sport world, once you get to a certain age, now it's becoming earlier.
yeah,
If you don't know the business side and the sports side, it's going to be tough for you to really navigate the space. It's no
yeah,
longer just the talent because now everyone's talented. Like if the
yeah,
talent is
yeah,
there. Now it's you really need to strategically plan
yeah,
your business in a
yeah,
sense. I know it's a lot, but I would say that for more so the parents, of course, my parents tried to shield me, but then, once I got to this part of pro, they didn't know
yeah,
that world. So I think for me that ad aided in me really thinking this is over because I just didn't know where to go. I didn't
yeah.
know what to do. How do I get to the next training camp? What should I do? How do I respond? It was just I was on my own and I felt like I didn't have the right team of people helping me build that next phase of my career.
And then again, I think that then underlines the kind of resilience and intrinsic motivation and the mentality of that professional athlete like yourself to go again. Because again, like we've mentioned, from speaking to many athletes that we've had on, when you look at their career, they may have spent, say, like we'd said, say 10, 11, 12 times in different kind of clubs. And as recently as a couple of weeks ago, one of my boys got released from a professional football club. So he's 11 years old, and that's the first time that he's experienced the rejection. So I mean, he was like really upset at the time. However, again, like we've explained to him, and again because of the stories that we've heard on this show, we've said to him this won't be the first time. I know it's not nice now. However, there'll be many like kind of speed bumps along the way, and this is just your first one that you're experiencing. And to make it to the top, and again, we'll show them the recordings of the podcasts and the shows that we've done, and they can like physically kind of see and hear that it's not just a straight line trajectory. It's a little bit kind of scrambled in the middle. It's kind of going up and down. It's not just well, I'm going to get signed for a professional football team or a professional basketball team, and I'm just going on a straight line right to the top. There is them ups and downs, and those were the stories that we wanted to kind of share with people, and to kind of highlight to people that it is normal. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It is a normal kind of journey with what a professional athlete kind of go through. I think there's only a few that it would just be a straight line, and I'm sure there's a few kind of ups and downs along the way, as well. So okay, so would you say your parents sacrificed to allow you to succeed in the world of professional sport, whether it be sacrificing, say, like time spent together, or kind of financially kind of sacrificing to kind of get you to where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. Again, from the early ages,
Yep.
playing amateur sport, it wasn't cheap. It's
Yeah. Yep.
very expensive once you start to do travel basketball, going to different states. Um, So it was definitely a sacrifice. Of
Yep.
course, weekends there in the gym with me,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
tournaments instead of enjoying or resting before the work week. Um, so financially, mentally, my losses were their losses.
Yeah.
Um, you know, potentially frustration as well of
Yeah.
feeling that, we need to help Jori, let's say, picking a college, understanding the next level of
Yeah.
basketball. They didn't do it.
Yeah.
So as a parent, to feel like you don't know, that's also hard to deal with.
Yeah.
If you don't have the information and it's your kind of job to help your child,
Yeah.
reach their goals. So I think that was a big sacrifice that they've made, and again, I see it continued with my little brother who plays golf,
Right. Okay.
and it's even more expensive to play golf, the equipment, the tournaments. You're going to nice country clubs, so the hotels nearby are more expensive than basketball. If you're
Yeah.
close to an arena basketball court for a tournament, the cost of living is a little different now. When you're
Yeah.
going to some of the best golf courses around the world, you're in some of the most expensive areas
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
the world. So that means everything, the cost of even when you go out to eat after the tournament
Yeah.
is expensive. So they definitely made plenty of sacrifices. And again, I think early in my career, my mother made sacrifices, and a lot of just different family members just made sacrifices and kind of chimed in to
Yeah.
make it happen. As they say, it takes a village. That's the saying,
Yeah.
to raise a child, and I stand so strongly on that for my early part of my life, and I always give New Orleans, my family, Lady Pride, the utmost, give them their flowers, their rewards, because that I think that was the differentiator for me in my journey.
Okay. And I think that resonates so well with us as well, with regards to, say, like the basketball and the golf, because it sounds very similar to, say, like our eldest daughter who's doing the tennis and my two younger boys who are doing the football. So we've got like the football that's kind of linked to, say, like the basketball, and the golf that's linked to kind of the tennis. You've got one that's quite an expensive kind of sport, and like you've said with the golf, when my daughter's kind of playing a tennis, they're probably in more like kind of affluent areas, and there's a lot of kind of traveling. Obviously, like we've already kind of mentioned. And again, before we started this podcast, again, because like we said, we wasn't from that background, we was wondering whether we was doing something wrong with regards to our time and not working efficiently enough, because it always felt like we was getting up early, we was taking her to training, she was doing like a S&C, or she was kind of hitting. And then it got to the end of the day, and then she'd be going out kind of hitting again. The boys would be going practicing their football. It got to like a weekend, and they were all training. So like myself and my wife would always be apart, and then my daughter started traveling away. So because she's at the time she was younger than what she was, so my wife was going away. So we'd be spending like time apart, and we're thinking, are we really doing something wrong on this journey? We must be doing something wrong, that it shouldn't be this like kind of hard. However, again, from doing like the number of shows that we've done now, it's been brilliant for us, because it almost just reassures us that this is just a typical kind of day or typical kind of week or month that most families whose children are on that journey kind of go through. And again, with the stories that you've just mentioned, it is a typical kind of journey. We do kind of sacrifice, or the parents and the families sacrifice, and not just immediate family, the larger family sacrifice to kind of help us with, say, like looking after our youngest if we're kind of traveling with the football or the tennis. So again, it is quite kind of reassuring that through kind of doing these podcasts that we can kind of educate the parents, just to let them know that this is the journey, and this is what will kind of unfold. Um, so when you look back on your journeys, both positive and negative, physically and mentally, would you say climbing the mountain has been worth the view for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't regret anything. I think the lows, when I look back, really were key
Yep.
lessons that pushed me into who I'm becoming now. Um, I think it's funny not making it to the WNBA, gave me a heart for the overseas community more
Okay.
of who we are and the athletes that are global, that are more removed from their comfort zones and the states or countries they're from. And so I really think that failure led to me being more passionate about a different community of players,
Yep.
which obviously is transcending through my next, work outside of sport. And so yeah, I think I mean is everyone says it, enjoy the journey. Of course,
Yep.
when you hear it, you're like, but I truly think, that's why reflection, meditation, those things, of course, the earlier the player can tap into it, even if
Yep.
it's just a little, just force them to sit in the room and no
Yep.
TV, sit there. No, you got to stay there for 30 minutes. And I think, it's those little things, if you can just start to reflect and just remind either your children, or of course, we remind ourselves as athletes, like, okay,
Yep.
let's look at what I've done, where I've been,
Yep.
have that gratitude, then you can get through the journey a little bit better.
Okay.
Um, because it's life. It's not even about sport journey. It's a life journey, and
Yeah.
without some mud and grit, it's boring.
Yeah.
If you look back on your story with no mud and grit, you're gonna be like, oh, that's whack.
Yeah.
I'll go watch this documentary on this athlete that journey was like this. So it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, no regrets for me, not
Okay.
at all. I enjoyed the ups, downs, and now some of the downs are also funny with some of my
Yeah.
friends. So, uh,
So we had Max Barbera on. So he was a professional ice hockey player, and he said from the heart, he said 100% he wouldn't change anything. He loved the journey. He loved all the experiences. He loved all the traveling that he did. He said, however, reflecting now, he said with his head, he said like he missed his education. He didn't go to school because he concentrated on his ice hockey career. He said at the moment now he's struggling to like kind of walk, and he said his shoulder doesn't work. So he said from like kind of a physical and from his head kind of perspective, he said like he may have like kind of had a different kind of perspective on it if he hadn't have kind of done that. However, he did share a great story with us on his very first kind of game it was. So it was his first professional game. He actually scored in his debut game as well, which he said was an amazing experience for him. And again, it's those experiences that you just can't buy. They're just things that you just never forget. And he said it was so kind of emotionally high that because he like kind of left his family at kind of 16 when he like moved to Canada. Um, he said he was driving for an hour the wrong way home on the night that he'd kind of like scored and made his debut. He said he was that emotionally high. He was in a bit of a daze. He didn't really know where he was, but he was just so pleased that he'd scored. He'd kind of made his professional debut. He was so like kind of pleased to kind of go home to tell his parents that he'd kind of played his first game and blah blah blah. And he said he was just driving like the wrong way home. And I just thought stories like that, they just really kind of emphasize the point of the highs and all the sacrifices along the way. They're just so worth it when you can have experiences like that. And again, like you've said, you just need to kind of appreciate those amazing like kind of highs, because there will be the times where you are down as well. So there's been some amazing stories that we've kind of had on the show, and it's just nice when the athletes are kind of sharing those stories, and they just put a smile on your face because you can just kind of see with the facial expressions that it just meant so much to them, and they were just genuinely like so like kind of pleased and proud that they'd kind of had that experience. Um, so as the show comes to an end, we have a tradition. And one of the traditions is we ask all our guests if they have any go-to quotes or philosophies that they've used throughout the career or are currently using. So we'll use Max as an example, as we've just spoke to him. So he mentioned to us that you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And he said like he was told, don't make it kind of too pretty. Don't take that extra kind of pass. He said if he didn't, he said he would have scored a ton more kind of goals throughout his career. So now he says his favourite kind of quote is less is more and quality over quantity. So I was just wondering if you had any kind of famous quotes that you'd be able to share with us today.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a different type of soul.
Okay.
So I don't really have like the famous quotes or the Jordan 100% Versace. Don't. I more so just like to live my life by some basic rules.
Okay. Yep.
Remember, and of course there are a number of quotes out there on Google, but I think some of the key things for me is to always stay grounded and close to the people.
Yep.
What I mean by that is to stay humble, stay close to the general public, never get too high or
Yep.
too on your high horse, no matter how
Yep.
great you are, because there's a mother that's great. There's
Mm-hmm.
a son being great. There's a doctor being great. Everybody's great in their own right, and they're
Yep.
doing tremendous things that it just so happens this capitalistic world doesn't celebrate them. So
Yep.
always stay humble and close to the ground is something that I just try to always keep my mind on.
Okay.
Um, and then um, at the end of the day, for me, is to always tap into your intuition and trust it. Um, and so that's another one that I always continuously remind myself is, you know, take the time to learn self,
Yep.
master self, um, and master that intuition, and then start to trust that because that's going to be your guiding light through the journey. Everything else is kind of in some cases, truthfully for me, cliche sport jargon or
Yep.
something. At the end of the day, the quote lives inside of you.
Yep.
Of what's going to motivate you. That quote is inside of you, and if you dig deeper for that and let it be more of an internal journey, but those types of things, I think you'll find something that's more motivating and
Yep.
inspiring than you ever imagine.
Okay. So what's next on your journey? Are there any future kind of projects or plans that you're currently working on that you can share with us today? I know you're the founder and CEO of WeVolve. So I was just wondering if you could explain just a little bit more about this and the reasons behind it for us.
Yeah. So yeah, founder, CEO of WeVolve. It's a sport tech and sport data company. Basically, in a sense, it's an application that allows athletes to manage their careers from one seamless location. The goal is, of course, it's an exclusive application for athletes only, but it allows stakeholders to plug in so the athlete always has their one place to store, manage, and stay connected to their communities. One of the things that we found the issue was that sport technology, data analytics was being great built for the organizations for teams. But
Yep.
then when you look around for players, how are we making better decisions? How are we staying connected? And so I felt there needed to be technology that utilizes data to help us make our own better decisions, removed from the teams and more so closer to our families or our grassroots, organizations that help build us and now have our side of our own teams to help us make decisions. But not only that, to help us stay interconnected. The sport world, we're passing each other by day and day with valuable information. I know a number of Nigerian players that can maybe drop some places on the map for your daughter while she's playing. That's the type of stuff we want to accomplish with the Wevolve ethos. And so that was the mission behind it. We are getting ready to launch,
Okay.
pre-launch, private beta launch in September with
Okay.
EuroLeague Players Association and a few of our immediate community. We're in our angel round and looking to get the next phase of investment. And for me, at the crossroads of going all in, full time with Wevolve, and potentially, that being the exit from my playing career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, from speaking to the guests, it's always great that the athlete. So we've had a number of guests now that have are coming towards the end of the career and they've started to think about what else they're going to kind of do next. So we had Jay Elliott, a professional swimmer, and because of all the experiences that he'd been through throughout his career, and it was a fascinating show that we had with him. He started his own kind of consultancy kind of company. We had Tom Smith on, who was a professional cricketer, and he was a spin bowler. And he was wanting to try and kind of increase the technology around kind of spin bowling. And it's great to kind of hear the stories from the experiences that the athletes have had to try and make the game a little bit easier, or something that's kind of missing, or something that will kind of support it and help it kind of flourish more. And again, because of your experiences of kind of living and breathing it for so long, I just think that immersion of you being inside the bubble, you've got so many like kind of experiences that you can kind of share and kind of relate to when you're kind of speaking to the professional athlete. So again, when it's coming from a professional athlete and it's not someone from, say, like the outside world, it does resonate so much more. And I think with the experiences that you've all had, I think it's great that you can kind of share that knowledge and experiences as well. So Jory, thank you so much for being a guest on Elite Children, a family portrait. I'm sure the listeners can see that they're definitely not alone in raising elite level children. And over the past months, we've been overwhelmed, as we've said, by the number of professional guests that have come on the show, and their openness to share such motivating, inspirational, and inspiring stories with us. So thank you so much for adding to that today. Good luck with any future ventures, especially WeEvolve. I'm sure with a mindset and a personality like yours, it will be a huge success. So Jori Davis, thank you so much for being a guest on Elite Children, a family portrait. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great to be a part of the podcast. Hope all the families and the children enjoy, and I look forward to being a listener consistently now as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Very kind of you. Thank you.
Definitely.